Welcome back to the panelists here. Matt Bai, contributing columnist for the Washington Post. Helene Cooper, Pentagon correspondent for the New York Times. NBC News Chief White House correspondent HALLIE Jackson. And Republican strategist Al Cardenas. Happy first wedding anniversary, sir.
Oh.
We took note of the date. We took note of the date there. Thanks for spending it with us. I sure Anna will give me a hard time about that. Yeah. I want to show this map. Last Sunday, this was the state of what we thought were reported cases of the coronavirus. 1 week later, here's where we are. HALLIE Jackson, inside that White House.
Yeah.
This is not a surprise to everybody involved in this task force, but it is something that the president seems to be in denial about.
I've been talking to sources over the weekend, all week long, obviously. And the president, what I'm hearing is that he thinks to protect himself politically, he has to go out and talk about this. There are two sort of push-pulls inside this administration. One is underneath the president's level, which are there are some people in the administration who want to take serious measures, who want to go further than what the administration has done so far in order to try to make sure that people are protected here. There's another faction who says we cannot be alarmist. There will be serious economic impacts. So you're seeing some of that tension. The other tension is the other way, between the president almost and almost everybody else, where they understand that they are getting out there and they need to put out accurate information, or there is a sense that they know that there is pressure on them to do so. The problem is the president then goes out and does what he did, for example, on Friday afternoon, and says things that simply are not accurate, simply are confusing and misleading, objectively, no matter how you look at it. And that creates more messaging problems for the people around him.
Al Cardenas, Dr. Fauci said this morning, he said, if you're an elderly person with an underlying condition, the risk is considerable. Having the president of the United States say that would have far more impact than Dr. Fauci, but the president won't say it.
Yeah, and I don't understand the politics of it, because whenever you have these national disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, if you're a leader and you're looking at this from a political lens, your expectations ought to be within reason, but as high as possible, so that whenever things turn out to be less damaging than you originally predicted, you're doing well as a leader. He's trying to underestimate and undermine what the reality here is, and so when it turns on him and becomes far worse, he's going to get the blame for not handling the matter properly. If I was a leader of a free world, I would be saying, look, this is a virus. It's very serious. We're going to take a hit during 2020, economically and otherwise. It's time for our nation to come together. I'll keep this transparent. I'll keep informing you. But the main thing here is for us to trust the process. But that's not what he's doing.
Overpromise and underdeliver.
Instead, Matt, let me play the president at the CDC.
I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. That wasn't our fault. And it wasn't the fault of the people on the ship either. Okay? It wasn't their fault either. And they're mostly Americans. So I can live either way with it. I'd rather have them stay on, personally.
So the president's referring to the cruise ship that we expect to dock on the port in Oakland there, and 46 people were tested, 21 confirmed cases, 3,500 people on that ship. We can all worry about the math on that. He's worried about metrics.
But he can live either way with it, so we're okay. This president talks on and on about the deep state, right? The deep state that's out to get him. Well, there is a deep state in Washington. It's called the government. We even have a union for it. It's called the civil service. These are the people who have expertise. These are the people who run agencies. These are the people who devote their lives to public service. There is a cost for continually discounting that expertise. There is a cost for continually appointing people to jobs who aren't qualified or just because they're loyalists, of throwing people out when they don't say the thing that you want. Right now, he needs to fall back on what he calls the deep state, and he doesn't have it. And I think there's a looming political cost for that.
He's been advised, I'm told, by people by his allies on Capitol Hill and elsewhere to put public health officials out more as the face of this than the politicians. But we've seen, for example, people like Dr. Fauci, who you just had on. But so far, they still want to make sure that the White House is the face of it, led by Vice President Pence and Secretary Azar.
Well, I think this is a case where nobody out there really, there are Trump supporters out there who will listen to the president and see, but the world is not looking for President Trump to lead on this, because at this point, I think people expect that he's not capable of leading on this. What's really interesting, and one of the things I learned during the Ebola outbreak of 2014, is that the first instinct of any government in the middle of a public health crisis is to calm people down and to underplay it. That we saw that in Liberia, where for the first few months they were worried about the economy, so people were in denial. You saw that in China at the beginning of this coronavirus outbreak. You saw that in other places. You're seeing it still play out in Iran, and we've seen that play out in the United States. It is not until governments accept and then go into move beyond acceptance and get aggressive that they're able to get this thing controlled. And that's the case. That's what we're seeing we saw happen in China when they finally got their act together with their rather draconian measures. And that's what you're going to have to see here.
Hallie, how's he going to handle the fact that, I mean, it was odd yesterday. It was Mike Pence that was doing the presidential meetings. He had the meeting with the cruise ship industry, and it was the president who went to his golf club. It just, and you heard Governor Hogan really heap a lot of praise on Vice President Pence. By the way, Governor Inslee as well, the Democrat from Washington State, also very complimentary to Pence.
And then President Trump turned around and called him a snake in that afternoon at the CDC. And you also heard Governor Hogan say something interesting, which was that the president hasn't been doing it how I've been doing it, but everybody else has been doing a good job. There is a separation, even in the minds of people, Republicans, allies, that there's a difference between the president and everybody else on it.
And Al, we do it so naturally now. It seems.
Well, look, the president said publicly that his grandfather went to MIT, that he himself has this ability comparable in science to his grandfather. His uncle, excuse me. And so my sense is that he is convinced himself, and that's what we need to understand, that he's got a grasp on this issue and he wants to talk about it. It's hard for people around him to convince him to take a step back and let the professionals and the scientists take over this matter.
Matt, you and I were talking about and we were talking about just before the break, what the Iran hostage crisis was in the final year of Carter's presidency. Not his fault, but it's a test in real time. And this is what seems to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing. It's what you guys are talking about, right? It's one thing when all the Republicans in Washington say, hey, he says some crazy stuff on tax policy or this or that, but we've got it handled. It's a different thing when the president is out there leading publicly in a crisis like this, and people are seeing it in real time, taking their cues from it. There is a certain capacity for chaos in American voters. They don't like chaos. They don't like uncertainty. The markets don't like it. The voters don't like it. We don't like it in our daily lives. I'm frankly surprised that the exhaustion from that chaos has been as slow in coming as it has in the American public, but this does hold the potential, if it goes badly, to become a kind of Jimmy Carter-like scenario where the public just says, can't wake up with this anxiety every day. We got to have some kind of leadership.
All right. Hello from Washington, I'm Chuck Todd, and thanks for checking out the Meet the Press channel on YouTube. Click on the button down here to subscribe and click over here to watch the latest interviews, highlights, and other digital exclusives.